Do you want to know the most dangerous way to destroy an enemy? It is not with fists, it is not with weapons. It is with the mind. A blow to the body cuts the flesh, but a strike to the mind leaves scars that never fade. Machiavelli understood this. Power is not found in noise. It is in precision. It is in bringing someone down while they still believe they are standing tall. Real strength does not come from rage. It comes from control. It is the calm gaze that makes your opponent question themselves. It is the silence that causes them to unravel, piece by piece. Across history, kingdoms have collapsed, not by blades, but by strategy. Men have been broken not in combat, but by invisible pressures weighing against their will. And that is what I will hand you today. 10 psychological weapons, 10 tactics so sharp you will never need to raise a hand. You will dismantle enemies with cold power, deliberate steps, and timeless precision. Leave a comment below. Real power is silent. Number 1. Control the frame. What does that mean? It means you decide the reality your enemy is forced to play in. Whoever controls the frame controls the outcome. Machiavelli wrote that men are more easily deceived by appearances than by truth. So hand them an appearance they cannot escape. Make your enemy move inside a box you quietly constructed. Picture this. You are in a conversation, and someone tries to dominate you with aggression. The weak man reacts, argues, and defends himself. But the strategist, he defines the frame. He answers slowly, coldly, with certainty. And suddenly the aggressor feels they are the one crossing the line. They hesitate, they shrink, they adjust to you. That is frame control, forcing them to move by your rules, not theirs. This is how rulers destroyed rivals without war. They did not meet force with force. They shaped the story, painted the picture, and locked the enemy inside it. In today's world, the frame is your tone, your posture, your timing, your silence. Hold it with iron discipline, and even the loudest adversary begins to second-guess themselves. Grasp this truth. The one who commands the frame never needs to fight, because the victory is already secured in the mind. Power is not about winning arguments. It is about never allowing the enemy to choose the terms of battle. That is Machiavellian. That is untouchable. Make this your law. Write in the comments, I own the frame. Number 2, starve them of attention. The second psychological weapon is silence. The starving of attention. Do not overlook this. Attention is life to the weak. They crave it. They beg for it. They build their identity upon it. Take it away and you suffocate them without even moving. Most men collapse when ignored. They try to provoke, they raise their voice, they insult, they spread gossip because they want to feel noticed. But when you refuse to react, when you give nothing, their fury turns inward. They burn themselves alive from the inside. Machiavelli knew this well. People would rather be hated than erased, because hatred still admits they exist. Indifference, however, erases them. And erasure is death. See this clearly. When you grant attention to your enemy, you legitimize them. You walk onto their stage, you fight by their script. But when you deny them even recognition, they begin to weaken. Their strategies falter, their confidence fades. Their voice shakes, because no matter how loud they scream, you remain still, unmoved, untouchable. This is why Stoicism is not just a philosophy, but a weapon. It is not about being without emotion. It is about denying your opponent the reaction they are desperate to capture. Your silence is not weakness. It is power. It is the cold reminder that you do not need them, but they need you. Think of the wolf. A lone wolf does not howl for validation. He waits in silence. Knowing his presence alone is enough. You must become that wolf. Your indifference must cut deeper than any insult. Let them destroy themselves while you remain above the chaos. Remember this, when you starve an enemy of your attention, you starve them of their strength. You do not only defeat them, you erase them. Now lock this into your mind. Write in the comments, silence is power. Number 3. Use doubt as a weapon. The third psychological weapon is doubt not shouted, not forced, planted. Doubt is the quiet poison that eats away at confidence from within. Your enemy can guard against insults. They can resist strikes. But doubt slips past the armor and corrodes the heart, Machiavelli taught. That perception bends reality more than truth. And when you can place uncertainty inside a rival's perception, you have already begun their undoing. Doubt does not need volume. It does not need clarity. It only needs to whisper. What if? That small fracture spreads until certainty collapses. Imagine this. Your enemy is bold, arrogant, convinced they cannot fall. You do not argue. You do not raise your voice. Instead, you let fall a subtle comment, a pause, a glance, something that makes them wonder if they have miscalculated. It does not matter if the thought is true. What matters is that it stays in their head, repeating again and again, feeding hesitation. A man filled with doubt is no longer a man of action. He delays. And delay is death in the realm of power. His plans slow, his movements weaken. His decisions lose sharpness, and while he second-guesses, you move with clarity. That is how doubt destroys. This tactic is not built on lies, it is built on leverage. Sometimes you do not even need to speak. A lifted brow, a pause before answering. A calculated silence can plant more doubt than endless words. Because doubt is not about persuasion, it is about destabilization. Remember this, certainty is power, doubt is decay, and the one who sows doubt commands the battlefield. Now claim this principle. Type in the comments I plant, doubt I never receive it. Number 4, master emotional detachment. If you want to become untouchable, you must sever the chains of emotional reaction. Understand this fully. Emotions are the handles through which most men are controlled. Anger, jealousy, fear, pride. These are not just feelings, they are shackles. When your enemy discovers how to pull them, they control you. But when you detach, you reclaim yourself. And a man who owns himself cannot be broken. Imagine this, your enemy hurls an insult. They expect rage. They expect a reaction that proves their arrow hit its mark, but you offer nothing. Your face calm, your eyes unwavering, your posture unchanged. To them, it feels like striking a wall of steel with bare hands. No matter their effort, nothing moves. That absence of reaction is not weakness. It is psychological supremacy, because when they realize they cannot stir you emotionally, they also realize they cannot command you. Machiavelli observed that men are ruled by two forces, fear and desire. Emotional detachment removes both. If you do not fear insult and you do not crave approval, then you cannot be ruled. You rise above the games of lesser men. Your calm turns into a weapon far more terrifying than fury, because it forces your rival to wonder, why is he unshaken? What does he know that I do not? Detachment does not mean emptiness. It means governing your inner world so completely that nothing outside can dictate it. You still feel anger, but you master it. You still feel fear, but you cage it. You still feel desire, but you act only when you choose. This is discipline hammered into armor, and that armor makes you unassailable. Your foes want you reactive. They want to tug the strings and make you dance, cut the strings. Learn to respond only with intention. When you move only from calculation and never from impulse, you become unreadable, unbreakable, ungovernable. That is the essence of cold power. Remember this, true victory is not when your enemy loses. It is when you stop caring if they win or lose, because at that point you are already above them. Seal this lesson within, type in the comments, no one controls me but me. Number 5, the power of strategic absence. Presence breeds familiarity, but absence breeds obsession. Know this. The human mind fixates on what it cannot reach, cannot control, cannot predict. And when you withdraw your presence with strategy, you inflict more harm than 1,000 clashes. Machiavelli knew this well. Rulers who showed themselves too often became common in the eyes of their people. The same truth binds you. Reveal yourself too freely. Make yourself too available, and you will be diminished. Your presence will lose its weight. But when you deliberately retreat, your absence becomes a silent weapon. Those around you feel the emptiness you leave. They replay your words. They speculate on your motives. They question your plans. Doubt, fear, and curiosity begin to grow, and you have done nothing but step back. Think about mystery. The unseen is feared more than the seen. A lion roaring in daylight is dangerous, but a lion you cannot see, only hear. Lurking in the dark is far more terrifying, because imagination multiplies fear when you make your enemy imagine you. When they are forced to fill the silence with their own dread, you command them without even being there. Strategic absence also cuts their access to you. They want your attention, your time, your energy, your reaction. When you vanish, you deny them all of it, leaving them to wrestle shadows. They start chasing you, not the other way around, and that chase destroys them. They look desperate, weak, unsteady, while you remain untouched and elevated. This law stretches across war politics, business, and relationships. The man always present is predictable. The man missing when expected becomes unforgettable. Think of leaders who retreat from sight only to re-emerge at the perfect moment of maximum effect. That is no accident. That is design. They wield absence so that their return strikes like an event. But no, this absence must be wielded with balance. Too much, and you become irrelevant. Too little, and you become ordinary. The mastery is in timing, knowing when to pull away and when to strike again. Like the ocean tide, you withdraw to build strength, then surge back with crushing force. Your absence enrages your enemy because it strips away their control. They cannot predict you. They cannot tether you. And in that void, paranoia devours them. Remember, when you are everywhere, you are common. When you are scarce, you are priceless. Strategic absence transforms you into a presence impossible to ignore, even when unseen. That is cold power. That is Machiavellian craft. Now carve this into your mindset. Type in the comments, "My absence is my weapon." Number 6, exploit the enemy's ego. The mightiest fortress of any man is not his strength, not his riches, not even his army. His fortress is his ego, his pride, his hunger for recognition, his desperate need to be admired as powerful, wise, superior. And that fortress, if you know how to touch it, is also the most fragile, because ego is both shield and weakness. Break it and the man inside collapses. Machiavelli noted that men are predictable when vanity is at play. Praise a man and his guard drops. Challenge his pride and he overreaches. Question his superiority and his insecurities spill out. This is the paradox of ego. It is the core of identity, yet the simplest lever to pull. And the Machiavellian strategist does not strike the man directly. He manipulates the ego until the man ruins himself. Picture this: an opponent who prides himself on intelligence. You do not need to outthink him in public. Instead, you nurture that pride. You allow him to believe he is sharper than you, that you are plain harmless beneath him. You nod while he speaks. You let him bask in illusion. And then, when his defenses fall, you slip errors into his thinking. Blind spots he cannot see, weaknesses you quietly exploit. Because the man blinded by ego is no longer sharp. He becomes reckless, predictable, vulnerable. Or imagine the man obsessed with strength, the one who defines himself through dominance. You do not confront him with force that only fuels his image. Instead, you yield. You let his rage drain energy. You let him roar and posture until exhaustion consumes him. All the while you remain still, composed, untouchable. To him it feels like triumph, but in truth you have stolen his lifeblood, his need for recognition. He becomes a performer, acting strong while you conserve your strength. Eventually, those watching see not dominance, but desperation. His ego turns him into his own downfall. History is littered with such stories. Kings dragged into wars they could never win because their pride was stung. Generals who overstretched armies because they could not decline a challenge. Merchants baited into foolish deals because they refused to be underestimated. Men collapse not from weakness, but from pride too heavy to bear. The master of psychology wields ego like a sharpened mirror. Sometimes you reflect glory to feed arrogance until it blinds. Sometimes you reflect doubt, forcing overcompensation. And sometimes you smash the mirror with a single cold insult that bleeds their pride dry. The art is in the timing, knowing when to feed, when to provoke, when to destroy. But always remember, this blade cuts both ways. If you cannot master your own ego, you will fall to the same trick. The instant you crave recognition, you expose yourself. The moment you hunger for validation, you are chained. If praise intoxicates you, flattery will enslave you. If insult enrages you, provocation will control you. To wield this weapon, you must first be immune. Discipline, brutal honesty, freedom from external validation. You must rise to the point where praise means nothing and insult means less. Only then can you see another man's ego as a battlefield, while you stand untouchable upon your own. This is why Stoicism is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is the cornerstone of psychological war. When you are unmoved by praise and unshaken by insult, you own the tempo of every exchange. The man who cannot be baited by anger nor seduced by arrogance is a man feared, for he cannot be moved, he cannot be steered, he cannot be broken. Let me make this sharper. Every man carries a hidden chain. That chain is his ego. Pull it correctly, and he moves exactly where you choose without ever realizing it. That is true power, not force, but influence. The kind that makes enemies fight battles you never touch. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But here is the deeper truth. When you master ego, you need neither. You do not need their fear. You do not need their love. You only need to understand the strings that guide them, and then decide whether to sever or tighten them. And mark this final point. When you break a man's ego, you do not simply defeat him, you erase him. A man stripped of pride is hollow. He may walk, he may speak, he may act, but within he is finished. This is the sixth weapon: exploit the ego. Feed it, starve it, provoke it, break it, and while your enemy wrestles with the ghost of pride, you stand sovereign, cold, calculated, untouchable. Now burn this law into your mind. Type in the comments, "Ego is my weapon, never my master." Number 7. Weaponize information. The seventh psychological weapon is information. Know this: the one who commands information commands reality, and reality is shaped not by truth, but by perception. Machiavelli himself wrote that men judge more by what they see than what truly is, meaning that if you dictate what is seen, you dictate the outcome. Your enemy will try to guard strength with secrecy, yet every man leaves trails. Words, habits, careless slips, allies who talk too freely, histories hidden in plain sight. Information is the universal key. Once you hold it, you need no force. You need no clash. You let the information destroy for you. This weapon has two edges. Gathering and wielding first is gathering patience. Silence discipline. While others boast, you listen. While others reveal, you observe in shadows. You ask small questions and let quiet draw out larger answers. You catch contradictions. You track patterns. Most men reveal themselves without knowing it. They chatter when nervous. They explain too much when lying. They brag when insecure. And every slip, each detail, each careless remark is a fracture in their armor. The Machiavellian mind never wastes words, yet never wastes listening either. He collects quietly. He remembers relentlessly. He maps his enemy's strengths and frailties. He learns their wants, their fears, their secrets. And once the map is finished, the battle is already decided. Then comes the wielding. To turn information into a weapon you do not need to spread falsehoods. Lies are brittle and easy to shatter. Truth, however, is unbreakable. Even a small truth released at the precise moment can bring down an entire fortress built on deception. You do not need the whole tale. You need the right shard. An indisputable fact dropped like a blade can ruin a man, as credibility his standing or his alliances. Sometimes the weapon is not revelation, but suggestion. You let others sense that you may possess something. You do not show it. You let them wonder what you know, how much you have seen, whether their secrets are safe. That uncertainty becomes a prison of its own. They begin confessing to things you never knew because paranoia is eating them alive. Machiavelli warned rulers to appear virtuous while quietly holding the knowledge that could end their rivals. This is why information outranks strength. Strength burns out quickly. Information burns forever. It lingers in whispers, in rumors, in the shadows that follow your enemy into every room. There is also defense. You must shield yourself with the same rigor you use to exploit others. Reveal little, speak less than required. Leave no patterns, no tracks, no weaknesses that can be charted. If you are careless with your own words, you hand your enemy the rope they will use to hang you. Remember, the man who cannot keep his own counsel is already beaten. History kneels to this fact. Empires did not fall for lack of soldiers, but because secrets leaked. Kings were undone, not by blades, but by betrayal. In the modern world, nothing has changed. The man who knows what others do not holds leverage, and leverage is power. But power lies not only in what you unveil, it lies in when you unveil it. Timing is everything. A secret revealed too soon is squandered. Revealed too late, it may no longer matter. Revealed at the perfect instant, it is devastating. It turns allies against your foe. It injects hesitation where certainty was needed most. It wrecks reputations when appearance mattered most. This is why patience is essential. Do not rush. Let your enemy feel safe. Let them climb higher, expand, wider, grow more arrogant. Because the higher they rise, the harder they crash when the right fragment is released. And when they tumble, you do not need to push. You simply watch. Information is the lifeblood of strategy. Guard yours, steal theirs. Use it with surgical precision. Do this, and you will never need to swing a fist, because reality itself becomes your blade. Now set this deep in your mind. Type in the comments, information is power. Silence is armor. Number 8. The art of isolation. Understand this. No man collapses while allies still hold him up. No empire crumbles while its foundations stay connected. If you want to ruin an enemy without touching him, you do not strike the man. You strike his connections. You strip away his allies, his influence, his support. You force him to stand alone. Because once a man is isolated, he is already finished. Machiavelli advised rulers to divide their enemies, never letting them unite. That wisdom is eternal. A solitary adversary is fragile. Surrounded by allies, he is dangerous. So you take apart his network, one link at a time, quietly, methodically, until his voice carries no weight and his name holds no power. How do you do this? By mastering influence, by shaping perception. You do not announce war on his alliances. Instead, you plant fine seeds of doubt. You nudge others to question his motives. You make them wonder whether he is loyal, reliable, strong. People quickly abandon those who seem weak or untrustworthy. And once doubt takes root, the bond is already breaking. History repeats this lesson. Great commanders fell not because their troops lacked courage, but because they were cut off from support, starved of allies, left to wither alone. Politicians fall the same way, not by bullets, but by a slow erosion of trust until their circle empties and they face the crowd alone. Even in private life, the method works. The man addicted to social approval is undone when the crowd turns its back. Isolation is not only external, sometimes it is internal. You make your enemy feel excluded, misunderstood, unwanted. You do it by ignoring, excluding, reminding him he no longer matters. The human mind fears nothing like social death, and when a man feels socially dead, his spirit breaks before his body does. There is another side. Self-isolation. This is your armor. You must not depend on approval, alliances or crowds, because if your strength comes from others, you too can be destroyed by isolation. The untouchable man draws power from within. He pulls discipline and clarity out of solitude. He does not fear being alone, he uses it. He sharpens himself in silence while others decay. Grasp the paradox. Your enemy is isolation, is his weakness. Your chosen solitude can be your weapon. The crowd empowers him. Solitude empowers you. Learn to thrive in quiet, and no enemy can starve you. When you isolate a foe, do not do it in a single motion. That is obvious and clumsy. Do it gradually. First you loosen one bond, then another, until the day he looks around and finds no one at his side, no one listening, no one believing. And in that moment he breaks. Isolation is psychological death. It is exile without exile. It is the slow suffocation of a man's soul. Use it with precision. Use it with calculation. And when you walk away, do not turn back. His destruction will finish on its own. Now lock this into your memory. Type in the comments, "I thrive in silence." Others collapse in it. Number 9. Manipulate time. The 9th psychological weapon is time. Few men understand it. Fewer master it. And yet time is the ultimate destroyer of enemies. Why? Because time is not neutral. It is a weapon that crushes those who misuse it and empowers those who bend it to their will. If you can dictate the rhythm of an encounter, you dictate the result. Machiavelli knew this. He observed that most men rush when patience is needed and hesitate when action is demanded. Their flaw is not strength but timing. Strike too early and the blade glances, strike too late and the enemy recovers. Strike at the precise moment of weakness and even the smallest blow becomes fatal. To turn time into a weapon, you must master patience. This is the hardest art for the undisciplined man. He craves instant results, instant recognition, instant revenge, but the Machiavellian waits. He knows his opponent will expose himself if given enough time. He knows arrogance breeds mistakes, desperation breeds errors, and fear multiplies as days and weeks drag on. So he waits like a predator, hidden in tall grass, unseen until the second of impact. Think of chess. The beginner lunges at every chance. The master delays, sacrifices pawns, plays the long game. He sees 5 moves ahead, and when the trap closes, his opponent realizes too late that every second was part of his downfall. That is time used as a weapon. You can also wield time through pressure. Stall when your opponent expects haste. Reply slowly when he demands urgency. Make him stew in silence, replaying every scenario in his mind, draining himself with anxiety while you stay calm, or reverse it. Act with sudden speed when delay is expected. Strike before he is ready. Overpower him. Throw him off balance, command the clock, and you command his psychology. This works on greater scales too. Empires do not collapse in a night, they rot over decades. Leaders are not destroyed in one defeat but through slow erosion, indecision, and decay. If you can drag your enemy through time, bleeding his energy, eroding his will, stretching his suffering, he will beg for an end before you deliver it. But here is the hidden lesson. While you use time against others, you must never let it enslave you. Wasting time is the silent death of weak men. They squander days, chasing distraction, chasing pleasure, chasing noise. And when true conflict arrives, they have no patience, no discipline, no endurance. They collapse not because the enemy was strong, but because time hollowed them long before battle. You must invert this. Your time is your wealth, every second of training every hour, sharpening thought every day, building discipline stacks advantage. When war comes, whether political, personal, or psychological, you will not just be prepared, you will be inevitable. Because while your enemy wasted time, you forged it into a weapon. Machiavelli said fortune favors the prepared, but preparation is nothing more than time invested with discipline. Understand this truth. Time is either sharpening your edge or dulling it, which depends on you. So here is the ninth weapon. Manipulate time. Stretch it when you need endurance. Compress it when you need shock. Starve your enemy with delay. Smother him with silence, or strike before he can breathe. And while he collapses under the weight of misused time, you remain untouchable because you mastered what he wasted. Now anchor this principle. Type in the comments. I control the clock. I control the outcome. Number 10. Win without fighting. The 10th psychological weapon is the deadliest victory without conflict. To destroy an enemy without raising a sword, without shedding blood, without even opening war. That is the peak of power. Machiavelli knew this. The prince who bends rivals without rebellion, who conquers wills without force, is not only feared, he is eternal. Because real dominance is not in destruction, it is in control. To fight is to risk. To fight is to reveal both strength and weakness. But when you win without battle, your power remains untouchable, untested, absolute. How is it achieved? Through influence, perception, and inevitability. You cut away their choices. You position yourself so resistance is useless. Rebellion is pointless. Surrender is the only path left. You make them believe the choice was theirs when it was yours from the beginning. That is the ultimate psychological kill, when they thank you for their own defeat. Look at history. The greatest conquerors were not those who spilled oceans of blood, but those whose enemies surrendered before the first arrow left the bow. They projected inevitability so strong that resistance dissolved. Their foes collapsed under futility. In modern life, this is done with reputation and leverage. If you build an aura of unshakable discipline, if you control information, if you master silence, absence, and timing, your enemies will not dare face you. They will retreat, self-destruct, or submit long before battle. Because no one fights a war he knows is already lost. Grasp this. The essence of power is not in the clash, but in the avoidance of it. If you can isolate your enemy, seed, doubt, starve his attention, bend his pride, and control his time. The killing stroke is unnecessary. He will fall by his own hand. And when he does, you stand untouched, your hands clean, your dominance unquestioned. This is the peak of Machiavellian craft. To win without fighting is not just efficient, it is eternal. Armies decay, strength fades. But the man who conquers through pure psychology rules forever. So engrave this truth: the greatest victory is the one won before the